This is Dr. Ada from DestroySocialAnxiety.com, and I wanted to talk about the idea of what happens in the brain when we drink alcohol. It's a fairly complicated and at the same time easy question and answer, because everybody knows that if we drink, we get much more courageous and much more disinhibited. As a matter of fact, I think that's one of the main reasons why people drink alcohol. What ends up happening is when we are socially anxious, we go to a bar or a place where we can drink, and we consume alcohol, and then something happens to us, and suddenly we're no longer anxious, we are no longer afraid of certain social situations, and we are able to interact with people. Of course, we all know what happens after we drink too much. We get to the point where we are not able to interact with anybody anymore, and eventually we are intoxicated to the point where we go into a coma or blackout, and sometimes if we imbibe too much, we die. Some people die from alcohol intoxication. Side note, it's possible from dying from alcohol intoxication. However, it's not easy. The easiest way to die from alcohol intoxication is consuming large amounts of alcohol in a very short period of time. And the other option is to mix it with other medications such as benzodiazepines, which I wanted to talk briefly. But the most important thing is to understand what happens to us biochemically when we drink alcohol, because I find it very curious and interesting in the whole process. We are in a situation that objectively is not dangerous, and yet because we have those programmed reactions to social situations, we tend to avoid those situations, and I spoke to it on the different video, but essentially the idea is that we are pretending, or our brain acts as if we are in the old scenarios, in the ancient scenarios where we're in a herd. So every social interaction is kind of confronting the hierarchical structure of the herd, and depending on who you approach, it's more or less anxiety provoking. For example, if you're a man and you're approaching an attractive female, the idea of approaching attractive female is, since she's attractive and she's in a reproductive age, she likely is already taken, and typically the person she's taken by is an alpha male in a herd, and therefore if we approach attractive female, that means that at some point alpha male will come over and we would have to confront him. When that happens, obviously it's kind of a scary and likely death resulting situation, because alpha male is alpha male for a reason. He typically is there because he's the strongest of the herd. So me approaching this attractive female means confrontation with the alpha male, as a likely scenario in which will result in my death. Okay? Therefore, every time I'm approaching an attractive female, I kind of am prepared to die. And that's why we have this feeling, or at least that's my interpretation of why we get this feeling every time men approach attractive female, let's say in a bar. But what happens, and the point is that objectively this reaction nowadays doesn't make any sense, because there is no alpha male. I mean, sometimes there is a woman with the strong and jealous boyfriend, but essentially that's not such a common situation. The most important part is that typically there is no alpha male. The worst that's going to happen is the woman will say, "I'm not interested and you can leave me alone." But yet our fear, our basic and primitive fear of that interaction, causes us to freeze and really be not very interested in that approach to begin with, unless the stakes are extremely high. Okay? So strange thing happens when we suddenly start drinking alcohol. Suddenly all the fears and the concerns are to small degree eliminated, and the question is, why does it happen? So the way to understand it is we have to look at what happens biochemically on the neurotransmitter level when we drink alcohol. So several things happen. Number one, I spoke in a previous video about the glutamate and GABA. As you remember, glutamate is the accelerator and GABA is the brake of the interaction. So what happens when we drink is we decrease the amount of glutamate and we increase the GABA. And for example, there are medications that are very similar to alcohol in their action, and they are called benzodiazepines, things like Xanax, Valium, Klonopin, Ativan, and they work specifically on the receptor in the neuron called GABA-A. And when they attach themselves to that receptor, they increase the amount of GABA in the body. The same way that alcohol, when attaches to the GABA-A receptor, increases the amount of the neurotransmitter in the body. So first thing that happens is that we are more inhibited because of the increase in the GABA and decrease in glutamate, which means that there is more inhibitory effect of the prefrontal cortex on the primitive, driving center of the brain, amygdala. So that's number one. Number two, it also increases our level of two other neurotransmitters, at least two. One is dopamine. When we drink enough, our dopamine level rises up. What it means is, in addition to being disinhibited, we are a little bit more aggressive. Okay, so we are more ready to fight and more ready to run if necessary, but mostly to fight. Our level of aggression increases because the dopamine level goes up. So we have a situation in which the aggression goes up, the inhibition goes down, which is a very dangerous situation, as you can imagine. People who are drunk are not afraid of things. They get into trouble. They get into fights much more easily than people who do not drink. And that's precisely because of that particular chemical process, which is, again, increasing the GABA and increasing the dopamine at the same time, with decreasing the glutamate. And there is also minor effect on serotonin. That's a hormone, neurotransmitter that's responsible for our well-being. Serotonin is like a calming, relaxing neurotransmitter, which makes us less concerned about things. So essentially we have a situation where we have disinhibited, relaxed, aggressive person who is ready to interact with other people without concern about the criticism about his actions. And that's more or less how the alcohol works. Obviously, as we know, alcohol is a toxic substance. The problem with its use is that with chronic use, it damages the nervous system. And as we know, there is no such thing as a free lunch. So therefore, every time you take a substance that kind of gives you this beneficial effects, the next day your nervous system and your neurotransmitter have to return the loan that they took the day before. So typically the next day we feel worse, and if we drank really a lot, we have major set of symptoms, which together is called hangover. And so that's in essence what happens to our body when we drink. Okay, and thank you very much for this video. And on the next one, I will try to talk about the idea of what causes social anxiety.